Derek, can you think of a better send-off for this 2025 season than the team that's been widely regarded as the best in the NFL, or at the very least the best in the NFC, is now on a 2-game losing streak? And depending on how the LA Rams decide to play the final week and how they value sitting versus starting, they could wrap this thing up on a 3-game losing streak after being the prohibitive favorite to get the bye and win the division and all that. And they're not going to get any of that. They fall to the Atlanta Falcons 27-24 on Monday Night Football. The latest example of one of the most unpredictable seasons I can remember.
I was going to say, I feel like that's kind of perfect for this season, that the team that we've been like, they're the stable ones, they're the steady ones. If I had to pick a Super Bowl winner, I would still pick them, are like, I think slightly more likely than not to be the 6th seed in the whole NFC, which is crazy. But I do think it's like there's that element of it. And then the Falcons randomly playing spoiler to some of the best teams in the league this year, because they had that Bills game where they beat the shit out of Josh Allen.
You don't want to go into the Mercedes-Benz Stadium on a Monday night if you're a team with Super Bowl aspirations.
Is that one also a Monday nighter?
Yeah.
Right. Wow, that's so funny.
They will beat the shit out of you on Monday night at home. Like, don't even try it with these Falcons. All right, this is one of those games where we need to spend like 5 minutes on the last like 90 seconds of this game, because what on earth was that final Rams possession? Falcons kick a field goal to go up late, 30 seconds on the clock, very confusingly deciding not to let Bijan Robinson touch the ball with their final 3 offensive snaps. You know, just the guy that's got like 150, yards after contact in this game. They just run into the line, they kick a field goal. And then the Rams had like 3 insane shots to pull this thing out of the fire. Matthew Stafford misses a wide open Xavier Smith. There's a hand fighting situation with Tutu Atwell on a deep shot down by the goal line. And then Puka Nacua came, I don't know, a fraction of an inch away from making, I think, the greatest catch I've ever seen before it was phenomenally jarred loose at the last moment. Just like 3 plays in a row that could have been among the crazier of the entire game, all happening in the final like 15 seconds of this thing.
Yeah, like the miss off the rip was bizarre. And then the second, the Tutu Atwell one, like they kind of run the risk of like the clock running out on them in that situation. And then the Nacua one, when I thought he caught that was one of the most, like, I cannot believe I saw him do that play. Like when he's pinning it against the DB's hand, like trying to wrestle control of it, and then he has it. And like, I know that like, it's still an incredible feat to me, because I know that like by the letter of the law, that's not a catch, whatever. The fact that he like does physically catch the ball by the end of it is bonkers to me.
I was in the building for Odell's catch against the Cowboys. Wow. And I say it all the time, where people want to talk about like the gloves these receivers wear and, oh, it's not that impressive. It like at full speed, the way these guys move when you're actually there, it's the most incredible thing I've ever seen. And I'm always quick to defend that catch as like, don't let the fact that you've seen it 10,000 times dissuade you from what a feat that was. I was ready to say this was better. If he manages to get done with it, like the fact that he he palmed it over the top of the ball one-handed and with very little sideline to work with, looked like he was going to establish possession. And like, the ball's not moving, at least not at the moment he's like getting his feet down. The ball's not moving. He just stopped that thing on a dime one-handed. Obviously it did not count, but I was ready to say it's one of the most incredible things I've ever seen happen on a football field. And that was kind of the story of Puka Nacua's day. He was like just so close to an all-time great day. Obviously, a lot of that is DJ Humphries having a tough night at left tackle, but add that near miss on at the end and just brutal missed opportunities for Puka Nacua in this game.
Yeah, because he had that post route touchdown that he did catch, but like you mentioned, gets called back because of DJ Humphries, which like I think it was Troy Aikman did a really good job on the broadcast, being like, he makes this look easy, but the way that Puka Nacua can just go up in double coverage, twist, find the ball on his back shoulder, and fall to the ground and like get that comfortably through contact, doesn't ever look like the ball is going to bobble out. Like he consistently makes those twisting whatever type of catches look incredibly easy, even on the sideline, the back line, whatever it is. Like the fact that play got called back for, I know it was called a holding, but I honestly felt like among holding calls, that one wasn't that egregious. But DJ Humphries did overall have a pretty bad day. So I kind of get the refs being a little bit quick to start calling him for stuff, if I'm being honest.
DJ Humphries, dude. All right. So typically I like to start with the team that won for these recaps, but we're in week 17. The Atlanta Falcons.
The team that won is out of it. Yeah.
They're mathematically eliminated. We'll with this Rams team that, again, like it had so much out in front of it, and season's not over. I get that. They're already in the playoffs. We're not giving up on the Rams, but how concerned are you by this performance? I mean, the Rams are down 2 offensive linemen. They're down Devontae Adams, who sounds like he's on the right track to be ready for the playoffs. So I don't blame you if you're not too troubled by this result, but I don't know. I mean, this is a veteran team. We've been talking about the health of guys like Alaric Jackson and Devontae Adams and obviously Matthew Stafford since July. And if you want to hand wave and say, they'll be healthy for the playoffs, fine. But clearly this team loses a gear when those guys aren't completely available. Or I guess maybe loses a gear isn't even fair to say, but it's a lot harder for them to get out of their own way. I mean, the penalties, the execution issues with this team. It was disconcerting to see this close to the playoffs.
Let me cope for a minute on offense, at least. I know that this game coming at this time is a little bit freaky. The Rams had more of these games last year and still almost really gave the Eagles like a run for their money to be the team that was going to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl. And so I still think they have the gear that they're going to need to get to in the playoffs. You mentioned them not having Devontae Adams. I think that that's a huge part of it. Like they brought him in this offseason to fix some of the issues they had in 2024. I think all of that came to fruition. And so if he can be good to go by the playoffs, I think we're going to get a Rams team that is, I think, probably going to look pretty inspired and look really, really good in the playoffs again. I think that they can find that gear. I also think that, like, not that the Rams had nothing to play for in this game. It's still, I think 5th or 6th seed does matter depending on, you would probably like to be the team that gets to play the NFC South. I think that would be a little bit easier. But at the same time, like them, I think not being able to win the division anymore, them not really being able to fight for the 1 seed, I think that does like dampen what this game probably meant to them. And so even if they weren't consciously thinking that this game doesn't matter more, I do think that this game means a little bit less than maybe it could have 2 weeks ago if a couple of things had gone differently. So I'm coping a little bit, but I think the offense will be what it needs to be come January.
I mean, there's plenty of reason for optimism in a game like this. I mean, they were getting the explosive stuff going. I mean, obviously the first half was just kind of a snowball effect that got away from them. And again, like DJ Humphries got blown up on the 4th and short that leads to the turnover on downs. Just no chance from the snap. He has the penalty that brings back I think it was Puka as well. Yeah, the ball to the pylon. He has the illegal formation penalty that brings back a 30-yard gain. Then in the second half, he has the holding call that brings back the Puka touchdown. So several huge moments affected by the injuries on your offensive line. And even still in the second half, the Rams ran for 74 yards in the 4th quarter. It really felt like they were getting things going with Kyren Williams as that game wore on, and they were able to lean on the Falcons front a little bit. You get things going with your tight ends. They were doing the fun 13 personnel stuff. You have the explosive touchdown to Terrence Ferguson. So I don't think that's completely pure copium on your part, Derek. Like, we saw plenty of the hallmarks of this Rams offense as the game went along. My only pushback to you would be there might have been something to lose on Monday. And I don't have a vote anyway, so I'm not trying to throw out reckless talk. But did Matthew Stafford potentially just lose NFL MVP with a performance like this on Monday Night Football at the end of the year?
So it's not just that he had this performance, it's that Drake May just also had like a perfect football game. And so I do think that like this was probably about as much swing as you can have, because I think by the end of it, like I know Matthew Stafford has the 3 interceptions, but like him getting to 7 yards an attempt, two touchdowns, he had a couple of good moments in this game. It's not like it was full disaster the way that maybe the first 3 quarters looked. But I do think we all saw him throw those interceptions on an island game. Again, right after Drake May just completed all but 2 throws and threw 5 touchdowns and was basically perfect against the Jets. And so I do think that I think us remembering that this being like the last important game that either of these teams are probably going to play, and that being the lasting memory of it, that probably did lose Matthew Stafford the MVP.
Like I said, I don't have a vote, so spare your indignation because we're just talking on a podcast here. I'm not actually going to decide this award, but yeah, man, if it's neck and neck, and that's kind of even going back to our midseason show, it felt neck and neck between Stafford and May. They've kind of become the central characters in this conversation. And for Stafford to, I mean, first of all, the Rams blew a 16-point lead to lose the 1 seed in the NFC last time out against Seattle. They let go of the division. And already, I mean, winning MVP without winning your division is an uphill climb. Peyton Manning in 2008, I believe, was the last quarterback to do it. So you're already up against it there. And fair or not, you play an island game. You throw a pick 6. You almost throw 2 pick 6s if Xavier Watts can get a foot down in bounds on the return. And yeah, I mean, if you already felt like both guys were deserving winners, I'm not going to be surprised if this is what sways people.
Yeah, and I don't blame them either. Like when I think I was totally willing to let this run down to the wire, and the fact that, again, Drake May played a perfect game, like a perfect football game, and for Stafford to do this. And so I really think if Stafford had this game in like week 5, we would all just forget about it and it wouldn't be a problem. But again, you having it on what is the last island game of the season, basically, I think that is going to matter for a lot of people. Again, especially when you've over the last 2 weeks played 2 islands games and basically pulled yourself out of contention for the first seed, which I know there's like a lot of reasons it works this way, but the MVP usually is the first or second seed in their conference. And Drake May is going to be, barring some really weird circumstances. And so I think that it is probably his award. I will say, for as much as I think the offense will be fine come January, I'm getting like a little bit worried about the defense. This was a pretty worrying performance from like a tackling perspective. I think you're seeing some of the limitations that the linebacker room has. I think the DBs tackled worse than they usually do in this game. And there have been stretches where the front 4 can really take over games. When they can't, there's a little bit of like that Steelers defense effect. Like when the Steelers front 4 can't take over the game, you get some really tough moments. This game felt a little bit like that for the Rams.
Yeah. Which Bijan Robinson wide zone cutback do you want to talk about? Like which play where he just juked a guy out of his shorts in the backfield do you want to mention? Because I think I noted about 4 in my game notes.
The one where he makes McCullough miss to the right-hand side, where he's like, that was the
93 yarder. Yeah, I mean, that was the house call that kind of flipped the game.
That's the one. Like, that is the most, like, I will say, too, like, that's obviously a really bad tackle attempt by Jalen McCullough. He's a little bit slow. He gets caught in the mud, and he's not able to make that tackle attempt. But I was talking to some people before this game, and I think I even said this maybe on the Monday nighter that they played against the Bills. I don't think any running back, maybe that I've ever seen, makes people miss in the backfield like Bijan Robinson. Like, it's him and maybe like Le'Veon Bell was pretty exceptional at that. Like, those are really the two when I watched them make a guy miss in the backfield. It's pretty phenomenal what he can do. And he did that, a dozen times this game? It was insane.
Dude, I'm looking at it while you're talking. And yeah, like the 91 yarder is incredible. If you give him that sliver of daylight, he's going to make you pay for it. He's got two of the 4 longest runs in the NFL this year. I believe I looked it up. Him and Jonathan Taylor, they're the only guys with touchdowns of 80 plus yards on the year, and they each have 2. So yeah, I mean, you know what Bijan Robinson can do, but like even on mundane runs, I made a note of it early in the second quarter. Go look at this. 11 minutes to play in the second quarter. The Falcons have the ball at midfield. It's 7-0. It's just a 3-yard gain on the box score, but Bijan takes it wide going left, and Jared Verse immediately comes in to try to blow it up coming from his right, and Bijan just stops on a dime and sends Verse flying, cuts it upfield, and then just lowers the boom on 2 more guys. Like, it should have been a 3 or 4 yard loss, and it's a 3-yard gain. And it felt like he did that every single time he touched the ball. Like, he would have won a game of tag in a phone booth in this game. It was incredible.
Yeah, I think that was I think that was the same play I made a note of, because I even posted something on Blue Sky where I was like, that second down run is Bijan like personified, and it's that run where like he makes the guy miss and then it only goes for 3 yards because the rest of the defense is able to rally, but he turns what like I know we're better about like the stats showing that now, but he really does find -2 yard runs that turn into like 1, 2, 3, 4 yards more than anybody in the league. Like I really think with some of the passing struggle issues that this offense has had, if Bijan Robinson wasn't so good at avoiding tackles for loss and stuffs, this offense would be behind the sticks so often, and they would be stuck in spots where they're kind of just left for Michael Penix or Kirk Cousins or whoever it would be, these immobile quarterbacks, to really just be stuck in pure pass situations with, for what has been for a lot of the year, a pretty banged up pass catching core and an offensive line that has taken a step back. So like he is, in a lot of ways, has saved this Falcons season. And that's the other thing I want to say about Bijan Robinson. It's too late in the season for this to matter because these are often narrative awards and stuff. Bijan Robinson leads the league in scrimmage yards, and he's like not going to sniff Offensive Player of the Year. That's crazy.
It is wild that, I mean, I can't even imagine he would finish in the top 3, because we were talking about this before we went live. I mean, JSN and Puka have obviously had the seasons that they've had. Christian McCaffrey is lurking. I just joked about this with you. Christian McCaffrey could mess around and steal that award, even though JSN and Puka have been the focal point. I mean, if the Niners win that game for the 1 seed on Saturday night and he goes off, you're talking about a guy with 2,100 scrimmage yards and north of 15 touchdowns in his own right. But then you look at Bijan Robinson. So that means Bijan at best could be like 4th in that conversation. And you're talking about the leader in scrimmage yards, who now has, I think, 11 touchdowns on the year. And yeah, I don't know. I'm sure the people with Bijan on their fantasy teams, who probably just won their fantasy championships tonight, they know all about it. But I don't know how much that is registered in the league consciousness with the way the Falcons season kind of fell apart in the middle of the year.
No, not. And that, again, I think contributes to how weird the year has been, because even Christian McCaffrey, really up until these last 2 weeks, like I think people know that he's like a really good player, but I think might not have realized that he is up until tonight, was leading the league in scrimmage yards, because they've just been feeding him the ball like 8,000 times. And it really wasn't only until these last couple of weeks that he was like really popping on a national stage, had the Colts game, had the game that he had against the Bears. And so it really has been a funny season that for the first 10 weeks, it seemed like Jonathan Taylor and JSN were just completely running away with it on this historical stuff. And then CMC and Bijan Robinson have kind of just been chipping away doing the same thing for 17 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, it's good of you to mention JT, and it's really not his fault that his case completely disintegrated. I mean, it's just that sort of unfortunate circumstance with the Colts. But yeah, I mean, it was JT and JSN at midseason, and then a month later, it was like, actually, let's talk about Puka Nacua. And then it's like, oh my God, these running backs are having all-pro seasons in their own right. Absolutely incredible seasons. So, yeah, it was cool of Bijan to get one more moment like this in the league spotlight. But okay, to take it, before we turn to the Falcons real quick, but to take it to the Rams defense, I mean, Jared Verse did make one of the coolest plays of the year with blocked it, recovered it, and returned it for a touchdown. But in general, you would say you're pretty concerned about this defense going forward.
I think so. Like, I think for a lot of the year, they have kind of gotten away with the cornerback talent that they have. Like, I know Emmanuel Forbes has a couple of good plays, but it's still a unit that I think, especially when they get true one-on-one coverage against some of the better, quarterback and wide receiver duos in the league, I do think if they run into one of those in the NFC, that's going to be an issue for them. I think if they run into teams like the Niners, that stuff is going to be an issue for them. And so I think you have that problem. And then I think they probably won't have that many games where they're as bad at tackling as they were tonight. But I do think that there are some moments where they just look a little bit slow in the like heart of the second and third level, even though they're like, that's kind of the trade-off, right? It's a lot of like bigger, stronger players that are like playmakers, bigger bodies for their size. But I think the trade-off of that sometimes is that if somebody can kind of make a cut, make a miss, they're a little bit liable to just be left in the dirt. And so I think some of that stuff concerns me. like I said, again, in games where the front can't take over. There are going to be games where the front does take over and none of this stuff matters. But I think going into the playoffs, like they might have one or two of those matchups where they just run into a quarterback receiver duo that can kind of just go for like 150 on them. And I'll be a little concerned.
I'm trying to forecast this because okay, like you're so right. I think the Niners pose problems for this Rams team, especially now that they're a lot healthier than they were in the middle of the year. But one way or the other, you're not going to have to worry about the Niners or the Seahawks in the first round. Like one of those teams is going to get a bye and the other one's going to be a wild card. So if you're the Rams, you're looking at the Bears, the Eagles, or the winner of the NFC South. I do even with the Eagles. I know the Eagles offense has been a pain to watch for most of the year, but the stuff that you just said, I think they could be equipped to give the Rams problems in a playoff game. The Bears, similarly, I mean, they don't, none of their running backs, I think, are as singularly talented as Bijan Robinson, obviously, but the stuff that the Bears can do and the way that they sequence it and the way that they call it, I think that could be a troubling matchup. It's funny to think too, obviously, if you're an NFC West team, you're probably dying to go play the winner of the NFC South because of what that division's been through. But I don't know, man. The Rams, they lost in Charlotte and they just lost in Atlanta. So maybe that is the path you absolutely do not want to take, even though those teams look like a step down in class from the other ones.
That's really funny. The best team in the NFL, their kryptonite is the worst division in the league. What a stupid season that we've played.
The NFC South is actually the key to the road to the Super Bowl. Go figure. Which leads me to the Falcons side of this. Where was this when it was still mathematically possible, man? Like, we've seen glimpses of the Falcons that people thought could win the NFC South this year at times over. I mean, we saw it at least once or twice when Michael Penix was in there, but particularly here over the last like 2 or 3 weeks with Kirk Cousins. I mean, the Buccaneers game, this game against the Rams, obviously, it's frustrating to see it when you're mathematically out of it.
So I'm glad you said mathematically out of it. I saw this post on a Blue Sky by user Alan Cole. Since 2018, the Atlanta Falcons are 53-78. Which is about a 40% win percentage in games where they have playoff eligibility. So like the first, probably generally 12, 15 weeks of any given season. They are now 12-4 in games since being eliminated over that 7-year stretch. It's ridiculous that they keep doing it. And because again, last year it was, we just got Michael Penix into the lineup and he's giving us this flash. And now it's the absolute inverse of that, where Michael Penix was really not that good for you for a lot of stretches of this season. Didn't really look like he had taken a step, even if he wasn't terrible. And then Kirk Cousins comes in and the offense is better. Like, I know he didn't necessarily have his greatest game tonight, but like Kirk, for the most part, has acquitted himself well for a guy who was benched and like getting a little bit older, still doesn't look very healthy. Like, it's just been an absolute bizarro ending to this Falcons season in a way that does feel maybe not so bizarro because it is the Atlanta Falcons, actually.
It is fun, though. And I mean, they are mathematically eliminated, but with this game under their belt, they hold a weird amount of sway in the NFC South title race now, because if they beat the New Orleans Saints on Sunday, then the Panthers get into the playoffs no matter what happens in this Bucs-Panthers play-in game on Saturday. So obviously, I mean, like the Bucs need to win to give themselves a shot, but they could win on Saturday. And then if the Falcons beat the Saints, it does not matter. And the Panthers go through at 8-9 on a tiebreaker. Just the dumbest division in football.
I genuinely love, this is why, by the way, we should absolutely keep like division winners, like making sure that they get into the playoffs and keep their seeds. Cause I think it's funny. The fact that Saints Falcons in week 18 might decide who wins the worst division in the league. And neither of them are actually playing for the division. It's perfect. We have the perfect sport. We don't need to change anything.
I love it, for the record. Like, first of all, you're introducing potential for chaos by letting a mediocre team host a playoff game. And stop trying to make me feel sorry for teams that have to go on the road and do this. LA Rams, you should have won this game. You had a 16-point lead in the fourth quarter last week against one of the best teams in football. You turn the ball over 3 times in Charlotte. You got the ball punched out on the goal line against the 49ers a lifetime ago on Thursday Night Football. Don't come at me like you're innocent victims in this situation. You're exactly where you've played your way into being. And it's the same thing that happened with the Vikings last year. I know the Vikings hilariously only lost like 3 games, but guess what? You threw up a dud and went like 0 for 4 on 4th down against the Lions in the season finale. I love that division rivalries matter. And the quickest way to make them not matter is to take the incentive out of it that you get to host a playoff game if you win your division. It is goofy and dumb, but this whole freaking sport's goofy and dumb. What are we talking about?
Exactly. It is goofy and it's silly and it's going to lead to some, maybe wonky results. And yeah, maybe the team hosting the playoff game gets blown out by 20. I don't care. Like, I think it's I just like the way that it's structured. Sports, I think I've said this at some point last year. Sports and their format don't need to be perfect. They don't need to be clean cut. They don't need to be sterile. It's okay that some of these things are a little bit imperfect. And the NFC South being what it is this year, I think is a perfect encapsulation of that.
I made the joke a minute ago that maybe the Rams don't want to play the NFC South champion because of what's happened this season. But if the LA Rams are afraid to go play the Panthers in Charlotte, just pack it in, dude, because winning the Super Bowl is way harder than that. Like, if you're good enough to do that, you can go to Carolina and win a playoff game against those guys. It's quickly becoming a pet peeve of mine because I suspect that they're going to try to change that rule. Like, there was a lot of noise for it last year. You're already seeing people grumble about it right now. I can't stand it. Make winning your division important, or else 5 to 10 years from now, when Bears, Packers, and Steelers, Ravens are just another game, people are going to be like, we really didn't know how good we had it.
I couldn't agree more. That's why sports are great. Just win your games and the rest of it doesn't matter.
Couple other guys I wanted to highlight on the Falcons side of this, namely, I mean, we have to say the name Xavier Watts on a recap show.
Yeah.
When you pick off the pregame favorite to win MVP twice, you almost have a touchdown return off of one of those. I mean, he's been great all year, but again, you do this stuff in an island game, whether it's fair or not, it matters. And way to, jump onto the radar for probably the first time since the Falcons' last big island game performance when they beat the crap out of the Bills. And he was a big part of both of those wins.
And the second one was in like game swinging territory. Like, the first one is like a little bit earlier in the game. Stafford kind of just chucks one up down the field and it's a good play, but that one's a little bit like, kind of whatever. The second one where he's driving to cut off that slant route on a critical down when the Rams are trying to come back into this game, I was like, okay, that is a big boy play. And so I think that the Falcons, Watts, I think, has been really good for them, but the Falcons rookie draft class overall has a little bit more. They took a lot of swings on defense, and I think a lot of them are showing up for them.
So that kind of, it plays back to the part about the Falcons being frustrating. I don't know. Like, I don't want to take the cheese because of the stat you just gave about being 12-4 when you're mathematically eliminated, but it's easy to be optimistic about what this looks like. And people wonder if Raheem Morris is going to keep his job past this season. The Falcons have now won 3 games. It's obviously murky with the quarterback situation. Are you actually going to release Kirk Cousins? What is Michael Penix's recovery looks like? But there's talent on this team, man. Like I said, it's frustrating that you're in this situation where you're playing this well at the end of the year, and it's purely just for spoiler purposes, because this looks like a team that could have mattered more.
All I'm going to say on this is I don't even disagree with you, but I think we all only have bandwidth for one team that we know better than to believe in them. And mine for years has been the Jaguars. And I know they finally have made good on that, but I've only got room in my head for one of those. I can't do it with the Falcons as well.
Yeah, that's something we can parse out as the offseason gets going and as we can sort of drill in on these teams that aren't going to be part of the playoffs. Because, but hey, the Falcons still matter for the express purpose that they can decide the NFC South. So we'll see where that goes. If they keep this up, I'm starting to think the Falcons might send Carolina to the playoffs no matter what happens. But hey, the Saints have been on a heater for the last 6 weeks as well. So look at that. All of a sudden, Saints Falcons has some juice in week 18. And also, if you're looking for one more thing to be pumped about, if you're a Falcons fan, this win helps your, the Rams draft pick that you gave them is now pick number 12, which it's a hell of a lot better than it looked like it was going to be like 6 weeks ago. So a really fun night for the Atlanta Falcons. We'll see how the LA Rams bounce back heading into the playoffs, but just a delightful game of football that I wasn't really looking for, man.
Yeah, same here. I was not ready for that game to be any sort of interesting, and here we are going 30 minutes on it.
Believe it or not, this is our last live recap of the regular season. There's no Thursday night football in week 18. We'll be back for the playoffs. Don't worry. But for all of y'all that have followed along with us all year, it's been so much fun. What a privilege to do this for y'all a couple of nights a week. I've had a blast talking ball with you, Derrik. Looking forward to doing more of it in the playoffs, man.
Yeah, we've got some. I'm kind of glad we get the island playoff games this year, so it's going to be good stuff.
We've got our regular programming, our regular format all week. I know it's a holiday week, but we're going to work around it. We've got a week 18 preview, so stick with us. We got you covered all the way through the Super Bowl. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.